Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, by Jeff Sutherland. Introduction. Imagine for a moment that you're an FBI agent in the year 2010. You're tracking a terrorist, trying to pay an informant, or filing a report on a bank robber. In this age of Google, Facebook, and instant information, you might think you have the world's most advanced technology at your fingertips. But you'd be wrong. Instead, you'd write up a document on a word processor and print out 3 copies. One copy gets sent up the chain of command for approval. Another gets stored locally, just in case the first one gets lost. And for the third copy, you take out a red pen? Yes, a literal red pen, and you circle the keywords that need to be manually typed into a gigantic mainframe computer that was state-of-the-art sometime in the 1980s. This wasn't a hypothetical. This was the reality inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This broken, ancient system was the very same one that failed to connect the dots before 9/11, when clues about the attackers were scattered across different offices, buried in paper files, invisible to the very people who needed to see them. After the tragedy, the government poured hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars into fixing it. First, a project called the Virtual Case File, which cost $170 million and produced not a single line of usable code before it was scrapped. Then, its successor, a project called Sentinel. By 2010, the contractor, Lockheed Martin, had already spent over $400 million, was a year late, had only built half the system, and estimated it would take another 6 to 8 years and another $350 million to finish. It was one of the biggest software disasters of all time. And that is where our story begins. Because the man who was brought in to fix this unfixable mess was named Jeff Sutherland. And he didn't just fix it, he did what everyone believed to be impossible. He delivered the most challenging half of the project, with a fraction of the people, in less than a fifth of the time, and for less than a tenth of the budgeted cost. How? He used a system he had invented nearly 20 years earlier. A system born in the cockpit of a fighter jet over Vietnam, refined through studying the secrets of Toyota's legendary car factories, and perfected in the fastest-moving tech companies in Silicon Valley. It's a system called Scrum. Today we're diving into Jeff Sutherland's groundbreaking book, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. This isn't just a book that has sold millions of copies, it's a manual that has quietly revolutionized the way the modern world works. The principles you're about to learn are the secret engine behind companies like Google, Amazon, and Salesforce. But what I want to promise you is that by the end of our time together, you won't just understand a new way to manage projects. You'll understand a new way to look at your life. You'll see why multitasking is a myth, why working longer hours actually makes you less productive, and how the key to achieving extraordinary results lies not in grand, elaborate plans, but in a simple, steady rhythm of focused effort. This is the story of how to stop wasting your life on work that doesn't matter, and start achieving more than you ever thought possible. Book summary. So, how did the world of work get so broken? How did we end up in a place where brilliant people at organizations like the FBI and Lockheed Martin could spend nearly a decade and hundreds of millions of dollars to produce absolutely nothing of value? The answer lies in a way of thinking that most of us were taught is the right way to work. It's called the waterfall method, and it's a beautiful lie. It looks something like this. First, you spend months and months planning everything. You create elaborate charts, called Gantt charts, that map out every single task, every milestone, every delivery date, from the beginning of a project to the very end. It's incredibly detailed, color-coded, and deeply reassuring. It gives managers the feeling that everything is under control. There's only one problem. It is always, always wrong. The moment that beautiful, elegant plan meets reality, it shatters into a million pieces. an unexpected problem pops up. A new idea emerges. The customer realizes they want something slightly different. But instead of changing the plan, organizations often double down. They hire people whose only job is to update the chart, to create the illusion that the plan is still working. As Sutherland says, they are essentially paying people to lie to them. This way of thinking comes from an industrial age mindset. The Gantt chart itself was invented around 1910 and was first used in World War I, a war famous for its brilliant, efficient organization, right? We gave up on trench warfare, but somehow, the thinking that organized it is still with us. Jeff Sutherland knew this way of working was a dead end. His own life had taught him that reality is messy, unpredictable, and can't be confined to a chart. His journey began not in a corporate boardroom, but thousands of feet in the air, flying reconnaissance missions over North Vietnam. His job was one of the most dangerous in the Air Force. He flew an unarmed Phantom jet, racing just above the treetops at night, while the sky lit up with anti-aircraft fire and missile warnings blared in his cockpit. Hesitation meant death. Foolhardiness also meant death. To survive, he relied on a mental model that was drilled into him during his training. It's a 4-step loop that would become the heartbeat of Scrum. It's called the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Observe what's happening around you. See the tracer fire, the missile lock. Orient yourself within that context. Where are you? What are your options? Where's the best path in, and the best path out? Decide on a course of action based on what you know. And act. Do it. Fast. Then, you immediately start the loop over. Observe the results of your action. Orient yourself to the new situation. Decide what to do next. Act again. It's a constant, rapid cycle of learning and adapting. In the chaos of combat, a 5-year plan is useless. Your plan goes up in smoke the moment the first shot is fired. What matters is how fast you can cycle through that OODA loop. After the war, Sutherland left the military and pursued a path that was, to say the least, unconventional. He got a PhD in biometrics, studying what makes a healthy cell turn cancerous. He discovered that organizations, teams, and even people are what scientists call complex adaptive systems. Just like a cell, they can exist in different states, some healthy and productive, others toxic and dysfunctional. He wondered, could you find a few simple rules that could guide a team to settle into a better, healthier, more productive state? He got his chance to test this idea in the 1980s when he took a job at a bank services company. He was put in charge of the division rolling out a brand new technology, automatic teller machines, or ATMs. He walked into a classic waterfall disaster. Hundreds of programmers were working hard, but projects were always late and over budget. Costs were 30% higher than revenue. Management's solution was to scream louder and demand more overtime. Sutherland knew that was a path to ruin. So he did something radical. He created a company within the company. He took everyone involved in the ATM network, programmers, sales, marketing, finance, and put them into one self-contained unit. He told them, the first thing we need to do is to stop doing stuff that is killing us. They threw out the old processes and started running the entire division as one cohesive team. They created some of the first building blocks of what would become Scrum. Within 6 months, they went from losing money to being the most profitable division in the entire company. They were the ones who made it possible for you to find an ATM just about anywhere in the country today and trust that it knows how much money is in your account. But the final piece of the puzzle didn't click into place until years later, in 1993. Sutherland was working at a company called Agile, and they had a 6-month deadline to develop a completely new product. He knew the old waterfall method would fail. He and his team scoured academic papers, looking for a better way. One day, a developer walked in with a 1986 paper from the Harvard Business Review titled, "The New Product Development Game." Two Japanese professors, Takauchi and Nonaka, had studied the most innovative companies in the world, Honda, Fuji, Xerox, 3M. They found that the best companies didn't work like NASA, with its rigid, step-by-step phase gate process. Instead, they used a faster, more flexible approach. The teams at these companies shared three key characteristics. 1. They were transcendent. They had a purpose beyond just getting a job done. They were reaching for something greater than themselves. 2. They were autonomous. They were self-organizing and self-managing. Management set the goal, but the team had the freedom to figure out how to get there. 3. They were cross-functional. The teams had all the skills they needed to complete the project from start to finish: design, engineering, manufacturing, sales. No handoffs between departments. The professors compared this style of work to a rugby team, where the ball gets passed within the team as it moves as a unit up the field. They said the best teams acted like they were in a scrum. That was it. The name. The philosophy. Sutherland took these ideas, combined them with his OODA loop training and his experience with self-organizing systems, and formally created the first Scrum team. They threw out the Gantt charts. They promised the CEO not a plan, but working software at the end of each month. And they delivered. On time, under budget, and with fewer bugs than any project in the company's history. This is the core of the Scrum framework. It's built around a simple, powerful rhythm. Instead of one long, multi-year project, work is broken down into short, consistent cycles called sprints. A sprint is typically 1 to 4 weeks long. It's what Sutherland calls a time box. During that time, the team commits to completing a certain amount of work, and that goal is locked in. No one from the outside can add more tasks or change priorities. This protects the team from distraction and allows them to focus. The goal of every single sprint is to produce something that is done, not half done, not almost done. Done. Something real, usable, and potentially shippable to a customer. It might not be the whole product, but it's a complete, working piece of it. A feature that a customer can actually use. This is revolutionary because it creates a tight feedback loop. Instead of waiting years to find out if you've built the wrong thing, you find out in a matter of weeks. You can show it to customers and ask, "Is this what you want? Are we going in the right direction?" And if the answer is no, you haven't wasted years of your life. You've only wasted a few weeks. You inspect, and you adapt. The engine that drives the sprint is the daily stand-up, or daily scrum. Every day, at the same time, for no more than 15 minutes, the entire team gets together. Everyone stands up to keep the meeting short and focused. And each person answers 3 simple questions. 1. What did you do yesterday to help the team finish the sprint? 2. What will you do today to help the team finish the sprint? 3. What obstacles are getting in the team's way? That's it. This isn't a report to a manager. It's a commitment to each other. It makes everything transparent. If someone is stuck, the whole team sees it and can swarm the problem to solve it together. It's like a daily football huddle, where the team quickly confers on how to move toward victory. When Sutherland's first team implemented the daily stand-up, their productivity didn't just improve. It quadrupled. They finished 4 weeks of planned work in a single week. A 400% improvement. This leads us to one of the most important and counterintuitive insights in the entire book: the power of teams over individuals. We live in a culture that worships the individual genius, the star performer, the 10x engineer. And research does show that the best individual performers can be about 10 times faster than the slowest ones. So it seems logical for managers to focus on hiring those superstars. But that's looking in the wrong place. When you look at team performance, the difference isn't 10 to 1. It's a staggering 2,000 to 1. The best teams aren't 10 times better than the worst teams. They are literally thousands of times better. If the best team could do a project in 1 week, the worst team would take, well, they'd take about 40 years. So, where should you focus your energy? On finding a few rare geniuses, or on creating the conditions for great teams to emerge? Scrum bets everything on the team. What makes a team great? It comes back to those 3 principles from the Japanese professors: transcendence, autonomy, and cross-functionality. Sutherland tells a powerful story about this from his time as a cadet at West Point. He was appointed training officer for his company, L2, nicknamed the Loose Deuce. For over a century, the Loose Deuce had been ranked dead last out of all 24 companies in the weekly parade competitions. They were a joke. Sutherland had no direct authority. He couldn't order anyone to do anything. All he could do was make things transparent. After each parade, he posted charts in the barracks showing exactly what went wrong and why they were ranked last. No blame, just the facts. Charlie's sword was stuck in the dirt. Jim's turn was sloppy. Within weeks, the cadets sharpened up. The problem was no longer them, it was their commander, whose orders weren't crisp enough. Sutherland showed him the data. "Do you want to fix it?" he asked, "or do you want to suck forever?" A few weeks later, the Loose Deuce was the #1 company at West Point. They had found a transcendent purpose: to stop being the laughingstock and become the best. When General Douglas MacArthur, the most honored cadet in West Point's history, passed away, it was the Loose Deuce who was chosen to march behind his casket at the funeral. They had gone from worst to best because they aligned around a common purpose and were given the autonomy to fix their own problems. But great teams have a third ingredient: they are cross-functional. They have every skill needed to get the job done. This eliminates the deadly handoffs that plague traditional organizations. When a project moves from the design team, to the engineering team, to the testing team, to the launch team, information gets lost at every step. Each handoff is an opportunity for disaster. This is what the Rogers Commission found after the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. The management of NASA had created so many silos and handoffs that they had exaggerated the reliability of their product to the point of fantasy. Great teams don't have handoffs. Everyone is in the same room, working on the same problem, from start to finish. This is how U.S. Special Forces operate. A typical A team has specialists in weapons, demolition, medicine, and communications, all on one small 12-person team. They have all the capabilities they need to carry out a mission. This brings us to another critical rule of Scrum: size matters. Small teams are faster. Much faster. The ideal team size is 7 people, plus or minus 2. Once a team gets bigger than 9 people, its speed actually starts to go down. Adding more people to a late project makes it later. Why? It's about communication channels. With 5 people, you have 10 channels of communication to manage. At 9 people, you have 36. At 10, it jumps to 45. Our brains simply can't keep up. The team breaks down into sub-teams, communication gets muddled, and everything slows down. Keep your team small. So we have small, autonomous, cross-functional teams working in short, focused sprints. But what are they working on, and how do they decide what's most important? This is the job of the product owner. This is one of the 3 and only 3 roles in Scrum: the team, who does the work; the Scrum Master, who coaches the team and removes obstacles, and the product owner. The product owner is the voice of the customer. Their job is to own the product backlog, a single, prioritized list of everything that could possibly be done on the project. They are responsible for what is on that list, and more importantly, for what order it's in. Their goal is to maximize the value the team produces. And this brings us to one of the most powerful economic principles in the world, one that Scrum is designed to exploit, the 80-20 rule. Decades of research have shown that in almost any product, 80% of the value for the customer comes from just 20% of the features. Think about Microsoft Word. It has hundreds of features. How many do you actually use? Maybe 10%? The rest is clutter that someone spent time and money building, but that delivers almost no value. A great product owner's job is to ruthlessly identify that crucial 20% and put it at the very top of the backlog. Do those things first. By the time you're done with that 20%, you've already delivered most of the value. Often, you discover you don't even need the other 80% of features you thought were so important at the beginning. This creates a radical shift in how we think about planning. The old waterfall way is to try to plan everything up front. But at the beginning of a project, you are at the peak of your ignorance. You know the least you will ever know. The research shows that early estimates can be off by as much as 400%. It's a complete fantasy. Scrum embraces this uncertainty. It says, don't guess. Instead, use the sprints to learn. The team's speed, or velocity, is the measure of how many points of work they can get done in a sprint. Once you know your team's actual, measured velocity, you don't have to guess when you'll be done. You can look at the remaining points in the backlog and calculate it with remarkable accuracy. This brings us back to the FBI. When Jeff Sutherland and his team took over the failing Sentinel project, the first thing they did was throw out the thousands of pages of documentation. They had everyone cut out the actual requirements and tape them to the wall as sticky notes. More than half of that 2-foot stack of paper was pure waste, duplication, and boilerplate. Then, they had the teams estimate the effort for each task, not in hours, because humans are terrible at that, but relatively. Is this a small task, a medium one, or a large one? Sutherland uses an analogy. Is this problem the size of a dachshund, or a German shepherd, or a Great Dane? This technique, often using the Fibonacci sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, allows teams to quickly estimate huge backlogs without getting bogged down in false precision. They started running 2-week sprints. After a few sprints, they measured the team's velocity. They now knew how fast they were actually going. The data showed they would deliver the project on December 1st, 5 months after the hard deadline the president had promised to Wall Street. Management wasn't happy. But now, Sutherland had real data. He handed them a list of 12 impediments, things that were slowing the teams down. Unnecessary security protocols, people not showing up to meetings, teams not being in the same room. He asked a simple question: what if we remove these things? He also forced them to ruthlessly reprioritize the backlog. Every single task, he told them, has to fight for its life. They cut features that weren't absolutely essential for the first release. By removing waste and focusing only on what delivered the most value, they met the deadline. They delivered a system that had failed for a decade, and they did it on time and on budget. This exposes the greatest source of waste in our work lives, the thing that kills our productivity and our spirit more than anything else: multitasking. Our culture celebrates the super juggler, the person who can balance 5 projects at once. Job descriptions demand it. But the science is crystal clear: multitasking is a lie. What you're actually doing is switch tasking. And every time you switch, you pay a tax. It's called context switching. If you're working on one project, you have 100% of your productive time available. If you try to juggle 2 projects, you lose 20% of your time just to the friction of switching between them. At 3 projects, you lose 40%. At 5 projects, you lose a staggering 75% of your time to waste. 3/4 of your day is flushed down the toilet, producing nothing. Working on one thing at a time is always faster. Always. Sutherland shows a chart where a team trying to do 3 projects simultaneously finishes at the end of July. The same team, doing the exact same projects one at a time, sequentially, finishes at the beginning of May. Just by focusing, they cut the time nearly in half. This leads to another form of waste: working too hard. Scott Maxwell, the venture capitalist who brought Scrum into his firm, discovered that productivity peaks at a little less than 40 hours a week. After that, you start making mistakes. You get tired. You make bad decisions. Those mistakes create rework, which takes even more time to fix. Working nights and weekends doesn't make you a hero. It makes you less effective. As Maxwell tells his people, "It's not because I want you to have a balanced life. It's because you'll get more stuff done." This is all tied to a final, crucial element of Scrum: happiness. This might sound soft and fuzzy, but Sutherland treats it as a hard metric. Happy people are more successful. The research is overwhelming. They're not successful because they're happy. They're happy, and that causes them to be successful. Happy people sell more, are more creative, and are more productive. So, how do you create happiness? By giving people what makes great teams great: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. The freedom to control your own destiny. The feeling that you're getting better at what you do. And the knowledge that your work serves a purpose greater than yourself. Scrum is designed to deliver all 3. But it also measures happiness directly. At the end of each sprint, during a meeting called the retrospective, the team asks what went well, what could have gone better, and what one thing they can change to be happier in the next sprint. That one improvement becomes the most important thing to accomplish in the next cycle. Sutherland has found that happiness is a forward-looking indicator. When a team's happiness starts to drop, their productivity will follow a few weeks later. It's an early warning system that something is wrong in the system. Scrum isn't just a way to work. It's a way to live. We see this in the final, inspiring stories of the book. In the Netherlands, a chemistry teacher named Willy Wijnands was frustrated with a school system that bored students. He implemented Scrum in his classroom. Students form their own teams, create their own backlogs of what they need to learn, and teach each other. The teacher becomes a coach, a Scrum master, who removes impediments. The results? Test scores immediately jumped by more than 10%, and students who were previously disengaged became leaders. In Uganda, one of the poorest countries on earth, the Grameen Foundation uses Scrum to help rural farmers. They built an app that provides farmers with agricultural advice and real-time market prices from towns that are days away on foot. One woman reported that this information allowed her to double her crop yield and, by negotiating better with middlemen, double her prices. Double the output, double the profit, for the same amount of work. That is Scrum in action. The ultimate expression of this philosophy can be seen at Valve, the video game company behind blockbusters like Half-Life and Portal. Valve is a company with no managers. None. New employees are given a handbook that says, "Welcome to Flatland." Projects start when an employee decides to start one. They form a team by persuading their peers to join them. Desks have wheels so teams can form and dissolve organically. They decide what to build, and they decide when to ship it. It sounds like chaos. But it's a state of highly organized, self-correcting flow. It is the restate of Scrum, where the rules are so deeply embodied that they disappear, leaving only the principles of trust, transparency, and a relentless focus on delivering value to the customer. This is the promise of Scrum. It's not about sticky notes and meetings. It's a framework for uncovering the waste, the frustration, and the systemic foolishness that holds us back. It's about creating a rhythm where teams can achieve a state of effortless flow, where they can be happy, and where they can deliver greatness. It is, in the end, a practical way to change the world. Commentary. When you finish a book like Scrum, you realize it's not really about project management at all. It's about human nature. It's a book about how we thrive, how we get bogged down, and what it takes to unlock our own potential. Jeff Sutherland didn't invent a new set of rules, he simply observed the patterns that lead to success and built the lightest possible framework to encourage them. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the book's profound respect for reality over fantasy. We all love a beautiful plan. It feels safe. It feels certain. But as Sutherland reminds us, the map is not the territory. The world is constantly changing, and clinging to an outdated plan is a recipe for failure. Scrum teaches us to embrace that uncertainty. It says, let's take one small step, see what happens, and learn from it. That cycle of inspect and adapt isn't just a project management tool, it's a philosophy for life. It replaces fear of the unknown with a curiosity to learn. The second idea that truly sticks with you is the rejection of the hero narrative. So many workplaces run on heroic effort. Someone stays up all night to save a failing project, and they're celebrated. Sutherland argues this is a sign of a broken system. A team that needs constant heroics is a team that's poorly planned and headed for burnout. Greatness doesn't come from dramatic, last-minute saves. It comes from a sustainable, steady pace. It's the tortoise, not the hare. It's the team that improves by 1% every single day, and lets that improvement compound into something extraordinary. So, how can you start applying these ideas right now, even if you're not building software for the FBI? Here are 3 simple things you can try. First, declare war on multitasking. For just one day, try to do one thing at a time. Pick your most important task, set a timer for 45 minutes, turn off your phone, close your email, and give it your undivided attention. Feel the friction when you're tempted to switch tasks. Notice how much deeper your focus is. You'll be stunned at how much you can accomplish when you're not constantly paying the context-switching tax. Second, make your work visible. Whether it's a school project, chores at home, or your personal goals, get a whiteboard or even just a piece of paper and create 3 columns: to do, doing, and done. Write your tasks on sticky notes and move them across the board. This simple act of making progress visible creates momentum and clarity. It shows you what you're actually accomplishing, and it reveals the half-finished tasks that are draining your energy. And third, hold a weekly retrospective with yourself. At the end of the week, take just 15 minutes and ask yourself those same Scrum questions. What went well this week? What could have gone better? And what is the one small thing I can do next week to make my life happier or more productive? Don't try to change everything at once. Just pick one thing, one Kaizen, and focus on that. This brings me to my final thought. We live in a world that often feels impossibly complex and resistant to change. It's easy to become cynical and believe that things are just the way they are. What this book offers is a powerful antidote to that cynicism. It is a practical, actionable blueprint for making things better. Not by wishing, but by doing. By taking small, deliberate steps, repeated over and over, you can create incredible change. That was a summary of Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time by Jeff Sutherland. We've touched on the core ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a photograph of a mountain. Reading the book is like making the climb yourself. It's in the detailed stories, the subtle insights, and the deep dives into the why behind the what that the real transformation occurs. This summary is your map, designed to show you if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've discussed today has sparked your curiosity or resonated with a frustration you felt, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new methodology, it's an investment in a more productive, more meaningful, and ultimately happier way of working and living. The link to the book is in the description below. And if you found value in our time together today, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another one of the transformative books that have shaped the minds of the world's most successful people. Let's continue this journey of growth together.